The man in the booth didn't look up. That was the first thing people noticed about Warren Okafor. Not the gray threading through his temples, not the size of his hands, not even the quiet way he held himself in a room full of noise. It was the stillness. The way he could sit in the middle of a crowded diner on a Saturday morning and seem completely, utterly unreachable. The Sunrise Grill on Decatur Street had been open since 1987. The booths were cracked vinyl. The coffee was too strong, and the waitstaff knew your order before you sat down if you'd been coming more than 3 weeks. Warren Okafor had been coming for 11 years. He always sat in the corner booth, the one with the torn seam along the backrest that the owner, a stout Greek-American woman named Bet, had been meaning to fix since Obama's first term. He had a cup of black coffee in front of him, a folded newspaper beside it, though he wasn't reading. He was watching his daughter across the table, the way fathers do when they think their kids aren't looking, like they're trying to memorize something. Kezia was 9 years old and deeply serious about her pancakes. She had her mother's eyes and Warren's stubborn jaw, and she was currently engaged in a very important project involving the arrangement of blueberries into what she had explained was a constellation map, Dad, not just a pattern. She'd corrected him twice already. "Is that Orion?" Warren asked. "Cassiopeia," she said without looking up. "Of course." He smiled into his coffee. Saturday mornings were theirs. Had been since the divorce 3 years ago, the one thing he and his ex-wife Tamara had agreed on without lawyers. Warren got Saturdays. He got pancakes and bad coffee and Kezia's running commentary on whatever she was currently obsessed with, which this month was astronomy. Last month had been competitive dog grooming. The month before that, the French Revolution. He never knew what he was walking into, and he wouldn't have changed it for anything on earth. The diner was full that morning. A youth soccer team had flooded in 20 minutes earlier, still in their cleats, mud tracking across Bet's clean floor. A table of older women near the window were deep in what sounded like a disagreement about a neighborhood HOA. 2 men in contractor gear were working through breakfast plates the size of hubcaps. Warren noticed the group in the center of the room because they were loud in the specific way that meant they wanted to be noticed. 4 men, mid-30s, the kind of weekend energy that comes from too many mimosas at brunch and not enough self-awareness. 3 of them were facing the door. The 4th, the one doing most of the talking, had his back to Warren. His name, Warren would later learn, was Spencer Holt. Spencer Holt was the kind of man who took up more space than he'd been given. He was big, not in any impressive way, but in the way of someone who had played college ball 20 years ago and still dressed like it meant something. He had a voice that carried and the habit of using it. Right now, that voice was aimed at Bet, who was trying to take their order with the particular patience of someone who had been dealing with men like Spencer Holt since before he was born. "I'm telling you, sweetheart, I've had Eggs Benedict in 14 states, and the hollandaise here is just... it's a little sad, right?" He looked around at his friends, who laughed on cue. "Tell her it's a little sad." Bet wrote something on her pad. "I'll let the kitchen know you have feelings about the hollandaise." More laughter. Spencer leaned back, satisfied with himself. Warren returned his attention to Cassiopeia. "Dad," Kezia said, "do you think there are planets around any of these stars?" "Almost certainly. Do you think anyone's on them right now having pancakes?" "I think if they're smart, yes." She considered this very seriously. "I hope their blueberries are good." Bet came by with a coffee refill and touched Warren's shoulder briefly. A hello, a check-in, a decade of Saturday shorthand. He nodded his thanks. That's when Spencer Holt turned around. He was scanning the room the way some men do, looking for something to rank himself against. His gaze passed over the soccer kids, the HOA women, the contractors. It landed on Warren and stopped. Warren didn't look up. Spencer said something to the man beside him, too low to hear, but his friend glanced over and then looked away. Spencer didn't look away. He watched Warren for a moment longer than was comfortable, and then he stood up. He walked over slowly, the kind of slow that announces itself. "Hey," Spencer said. Warren looked up. He set down his kfi. "Morning. You're in our servers section." Spencer gestured vaguely toward Bet, who was at the counter and had not asked for his help. "She's running around because you're taking up a four-top by yourself. Kind of inconsiderate, don't you think?" There were 5 people between Warren and the nearest empty seat at the counter. The diner was full. The four-top was the corner booth, which Bet had given Warren because she always gave Warren the corner booth. "I have my daughter with me," Warren said. Spencer looked at Kezia as if noticing her for the first time. Something shifted in his expression, not warmth exactly, more like recalibration. "Still," he said. 2 people, 4 seats. "My daughter has a project," Warren said. "She needs the table space." Kezia, without looking up from her constellation, said very clearly, "It's Cassiopeia." Spencer stared at her, then at Warren. Then he tilted his head. "You know what, man, I'm just saying it's a little inconsiderate. You know how it is. Some of us are waiting for tables." "You have a table," Warren said. "A beat." Spencer's jaw moved slightly. "You know what I mean." "I'm not sure I do," Warren said. "But I'm happy to talk about it after my daughter finishes her pancakes." Something in the even delivery of that sentence made one of Spencer's friends shift in his seat. Not Spencer. Spencer had been drinking since 10:30 and had long since lost the part of himself that registered that kind of signal. "What's your name?" Spencer asked. "Warren." "Warren." He said it like he was trying it out and finding it wanting. "Warren, I'm Spencer, and I'm just trying to have a conversation here, man to man." "We're having one. Are we?" Spencer looked around as if there were an audience he was performing for. There was, in a way. The room had gotten quieter. Not silent, but quieter. The soccer kids were absorbed in their phones. The contractors had stopped eating. The HOA women were very deliberately not looking over while very clearly listening. "Because to me it looks like you're just sitting there." "I am sitting here," Warren said, "with my daughter, eating breakfast." "A black man in a corner booth," Spencer said, and his voice had changed. Not louder, but sharper, like he'd decided something. "Taking up space. Not talking to nobody. Just sitting." He spread his hands. "I guess some people just expect everything to be handed to them." The room went quiet. Not the kind of quiet that comes from people not listening. The kind that comes from everyone listening at the same time and no one wanting to be the one to move first. Kezia had stopped arranging blueberries. She was looking at her father's face. Warren looked at his daughter for exactly 2 seconds. He saw what was in her eyes. Not fear, exactly. She was 9, and she was smart, and she understood more about the world than children should have to understand. What was in her eyes was a question, a waiting. He reached across the table and touched the back of her hand. "1 second, baby," he said. He set his napkin on the table, folded it the way he always folded things, precisely, without thinking about it. He looked up at Spencer Holt. He didn't raise his voice. "You walked across a full diner," Warren said, "to stand over a man having breakfast with his child and make a comment about his race." Spencer opened his mouth. "I'm not finished," Warren said. Spencer closed it. There are moments when something in a person's voice changes. Not the volume, not the tone exactly, but something underneath it. Something structural. Like you've been looking at a building and you suddenly understand that the facade is not the building. The building goes much, much deeper than that. Spencer felt it. He wasn't smart enough to understand what he felt, but he felt it. "You're going to walk back to your table," Warren said. "You're going to finish your brunch. And you're going to do it quietly, because my daughter is sitting right here, and this conversation is done." Spencer laughed. A short, reflexive thing, the laugh of a man who doesn't know what else to do. "Or what? What are you going to do?" Warren didn't answer immediately. He looked at Spencer Holt with the measured attention of a man who had spent a long time learning how to assess threats. who had learned it not in a classroom or a boardroom, but in places where getting that assessment wrong meant people didn't come home. "Nothing," Warren said. "I'm not going to do anything, because I don't need to." "Oh, that's rich. My name is Warren Okafor." He said it the way you say something important. Clearly without emphasis, just letting the words be the weight they were. "I spent 8 years with the 75th Ranger Regiment, 2 deployments to Afghanistan, 1 to Iraq. I have a combat infantryman badge, a bronze star, and a purple heart that I keep in a box at home because it makes my daughter sad when she sees it." His eyes did not leave Spencer's face. "I run a security consulting firm now. I have 17 employees. I coach my daughter's soccer team on Sunday afternoons. And on Saturday mornings, I have breakfast at this diner. I have been coming here for 11 years. The room was very quiet. Spencer had gone still. Not calm, still in the way that a person goes still when the ground has shifted under them, and they haven't figured out which way to fall yet. "I'm not telling you any of that to impress you," Warren said. "I'm telling you because I want you to understand something. You came over here with an idea in your head about what I was, and you were wrong. You are almost always wrong about people, and the cost of that is usually small, an awkward moment, a lesson not learned." He paused. "But sometimes the cost is larger. Today you were lucky. I'm a man having breakfast with his daughter on a Saturday morning, and that's all I want to be. But Spencer, I need you to understand that you don't know who is sitting in the corner booth. You never know." Spencer Holt did not say anything. One of his friends, the one who had looked away earlier, stood up from the table. "Hey, Spence, let's go." Spencer looked at his friend. He looked at Warren. He looked at Kezia, who had gone back to her blueberries, with the focused calm of someone who had decided the best thing she could do was trust her father to handle this. Spencer started. "It's handled," Warren said. "Go back to your table." Spencer went back to his table. The room exhaled. Bet materialized from behind the counter with the particular efficiency of a woman who has waited out many storms. She refilled Warren's coffee without being asked, topped off Kezia's orange juice, and paused beside their booth for just a moment. "The blueberry pancakes are on me this morning," she said. Warren shook his head. "Bet, Warren," she said in the voice she used when the conversation was over. "The pancakes are on me." She left. Warren watched her go. He picked up his coffee. Kezia was watching him with that precise, serious attention she used for things that mattered. "Dad," she said. "Yeah, baby. What's a bronze star?" He wrapped both hands around the coffee cup. Outside, through the window, Decatur Street was going about its morning, cars turning, a kid on a bike, 2 women walking a dog that was clearly walking them. "It's a medal," he said. "They give it to soldiers." "What did you do to get it?" He thought about it. The real answer was long and had no good ending, and involved a night in a place she would never see, and people she would never meet, and a decision he had made in 3 seconds that he had spent 11 years trying to understand. The real answer was not for a 9-year-old on a Saturday morning over blueberry pancakes. "I helped some people," he said. Kezia nodded, the way she nodded when she was cataloging information for later. She would ask again. He knew she would. She was his daughter, and she didn't let things go. "Dad?" she said. "Yeah, why did that man come over here?" Warren set down his coffee. He looked at his daughter, her serious eyes, her mother's cheekbones, the small blueberry smear on her chin that she hadn't noticed and that he wasn't going to point out just yet. "Because he was scared," Warren said. Kezia frowned. He didn't look scared. Scared people don't always look scared. Sometimes they look angry. Sometimes they look big and loud. Sometimes they walk across a diner to prove something to themselves. He paused. When people don't understand something, it can make them afraid of it. And some people, when they're afraid, they try to make themselves feel bigger by making other people feel small. Kezia was quiet for a moment. She looked at her constellation, the careful arrangement of fruit on a white plate. "That doesn't work, though," she said. No, Warren said. It doesn't. So he's still scared. He's still scared. She picked up her fork and considered a blueberry. That's kind of sad, she said, without much sympathy in it. She was 9, and she had decided. It is, Warren agreed. Across the diner, Spencer Holt's table had grown quiet. His friends were finishing their food. Spencer was on his phone, his shoulders rounded in the particular shape of a man who had said something he couldn't unsay and was now doing the math of what it would cost him. On the other side of the room, a woman Warren didn't know caught his eye and gave him a small, deliberate nod. He nodded back. Bet came by with fresh syrup without being asked. The morning went on. Kezia finished Cassiopeia. She was satisfied with the result, took a photo on Warren's phone for documentation purposes, and then ate the evidence. She told him about a book she was reading about the Voyager probe, and how it was so far away now that it took signals 22 hours to travel to it. She said she thought that was the loneliest thing she'd ever heard. He said some things that go that far into the dark still send something back, and that maybe that out wasn't lonely at all. She thought about that for a while. The soccer team cleared out in a rush of cleats and noise and forgotten jackets. The HOA women resolved something, apparently, because they called for the check in the restored warmth of people who had returned from the edge of a dispute. The contractors paid and left exact change, which Bet said she appreciated more than anyone knew. Spencer Holt and his friends left without speaking to anyone. Spencer did not look at Warren on the way out. His friend, the one who had stood up, glanced over as he passed, briefly, and then looked at the floor. Warren didn't watch them go. When it was just them again, Kezia pushed her empty plate aside and pulled her father's newspaper over to her side of the table. She opened it with the authority of someone who intended to have opinions about its contents. "What should I read?" she asked. "Whatever looks interesting." "Everything looks interesting," she said. "That's not helpful." He laughed, a quiet, real thing that started in his chest. Science section. She found it. She read with her elbow on the table and her cheek in her hand, the way she'd been reading since she was 4 years old. Outside, the morning continued. A Saturday in early March, pale sun, the city moving at its weekend pace. Warren Okafor sat in his corner booth with his coffee gone cold and watched his daughter read the newspaper, and he felt something so ordinary and so enormous that he didn't have a name for it. He'd been in rooms where the air itself felt like a held breath. He'd made decisions in the dark. He'd carried weight that didn't have a shape you could put down. And he had also had this, a cracked vinyl booth, a too-strong cup of coffee, a 9-year-old explaining constellations with the confidence of someone who had personally mapped them. He had learned a long time ago that the two things were not in conflict, that the warrior and the father and the man in the corner booth were the same person, that you didn't leave one behind to be another. Some people would look at him on a Saturday morning and see nothing. He had stopped minding. Bet swung by with the check, though Warren knew the pancakes were already gone from it, and topped off the coffee he hadn't been drinking. "Same time next week?" she asked. "Same time next week," Warren said. Kezia looked up from the newspaper. "Can I get the waffle next time?" "You can get whatever you want," he said. She went back to the paper, satisfied. Warren wrapped both hands around the warm cup. Somewhere across the city, his ex-wife was probably already at her yoga class, and later they would do the handoff on the corner of Maple and Fifth the way they always did, and Kezia would hug him goodbye with the total commitment that children bring to everything, and he would watch her walk up the steps and then drive home to his quiet apartment and his Sunday coaching schedule and his ordinary, enormous life. But right now it was Saturday morning. Right now there was coffee and a newspaper and a daughter who believed the Voyager probe was not lonely because something that far out was still sending something back. Warren thought she might be right about that. Some people never figure out that the quietest man in the room is often the one who has already survived the loudest moments of his life. They walk in looking for someone to be less than them, and they don't find it, and they go home unchanged. But every now and then, in a corner booth at a diner on Decatur Street, a 9-year-old girl arranges blueberries into a constellation and reminds her father why he came home. That's enough. That has always been enough.